Canada has found itself at the center of a trio of proclamations signed by the American president that aim to further punish a decision to keep retaliating against the Trump administration's tariffs. On Monday, hundreds of exports were slapped with new 50% tariffs, and it impacts almost everything, regardless of previous free trade protections. Our Reggie Cecchini is in Washington with the latest, and he joins us now. All right, Reggie, take us through what we know about these new tariffs and why the White House made the announcement.
Right, Miranda. So on a call yesterday with senior administration officials, we were told that this is part of, a bit of anger that's coming out of the White House for what it believes to be discriminatory practices coming out of Canada on three specific sectors: alcohol, auto, and supply management, really focusing in on dairy. And in terms of alcohol, we've seen, all but two provinces remove booze from the shelves of stores. And what it's meant is about $500 million less in American wine and spirits making their way into Canada. So the administration argues that the tariffs that they are using now are meant to try and regain some market share that they believe that they have lost since Canada retaliated. But remember, the tariffs that Canada has put in place were retaliation against tariffs that the Americans put in place at the beginning of Donald Trump's terms, which were ultimately overturned by the Supreme Court, those emergency tariffs. So what we're seeing here are a 50% tariff on hundreds and hundreds of goods coming out of Canada, everything from down jackets to fishing rods to booze to baking mixes and furniture fittings and synthetic wigs. All of this aimed at trying to take some kind of action against the Canadian government here, because again, the United States argues that there were only two countries on the planet that retaliated against the United States. That was China and Canada, and they believe that this is a way to try and right a wrong that they are continuing to push back against.
And does this have anything to do with the wildfires, Reggie? I know Trump has come out saying he's upset that the smoke has come down into the U.S. and is, it's harming American citizens. Was there any mention of that when these tariffs came out?
No, the White House specifically said that this is not related to any of the forest fires. A senior administration official said that Donald Trump is being presented with options on how to move forward with that, but also noted that when the Prime Minister was in New Jersey for the FIFA final, that it was not, quote, a working visit, and the topic of tariffs was not brought up against the two. So this is one of those things to watch. The United States is trying to put this 50% tariff in place while at the same time mulling additional actions that it can take against Ottawa.
All right. Now, previously, Reggie, CUSMA exemptions shielded some of the economic threats coming from Trump. Is this a new trade war here?
Well, the White House was very specific to say that this is not a trade war, that this is simply trying to end what it believes to be discriminatory practices against the United States. But what is remarkable here is that in the past, when we've seen the White House use tariffs to try and go after Canadian exports into the U.S., CUSMA really acted as an umbrella or a shield and protected so many Canadian goods. This time, it is not really kind for kind. It is kind of a blanket tariff that is going on all Canadian goods, even if they are protected by CUSMA. This is resulting in some pushback from Canadian officials and some concern here that this could have a bit of economic damage, not only in Canada, but in the United States as well. It's worth pointing out that CUSMA talks have not formally begun between Canada and the United States, even though we are set to see the U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer meet with Mexican officials this week for a multi-day meeting as they move forward with formalized negotiations. Mexico's new ambassador to the United States has said that he believes CUSMA will actually be finalized this year and that Canada will likely be involved in that. But it is going to be a difficult sell here, given the fact that this measure that some Canadians are saying is punitive coming from the White House is for the first time targeting all of those goods that were once protected.
Reggie, we've seen previous tariffs actually get thrown out by the courts, saying that they don't actually have any sort of legal standing. Do these new tariffs have a strong legal standing, or is it the same thing, do you think?
Well, yeah, look, this is Section 338, and it's novel. It has never been used before. It's from tariff laws back in the 1930s, and it is a question as to whether this is ultimately going to result in a legal battle because it's untested. And while it allows for a president to take action of up to 50% for what it believes to be unfair trade practices, it's never been used before. And the White House admitted that on the phone yesterday, suggesting that they've never tried this before. So again, it is a question. It is 30 days from when these proclamations negotiations were signed to when it goes in place, so roughly around August 19th. And it's a question as to, number one, does this get caught up in the courts? Or number two, does this kind of 4 weeks time frame allow for negotiations between Washington and Ottawa to try and come to terms with something as the White House really tries to steer Canada back in its direction?
All right, so what has the response then been from Canadian officials?
Well, I mean, look, Liberals, the Prime Minister, they're saying that this is unjustified, while the Prime Minister also saying that Canada stands ready to carry out new negotiations and talk with the United States. From premiers, though, across the country, they are hitting back at this, arguing that this is going to impact the Canadian economy. They're saying that this is unfair. They're saying that this is really tarnishing what might be the last relationship the United States has with countries around the world. Ontario Premier Doug Ford, on the other hand, is saying that now's not the time for negotiations and that there should be kind of a match here, dollar for dollar, in terms of tariffs. And remember, the White House has already taken issue with some of the comments and actions of the Ford government in Ontario. It's not quite clear what is ultimately going to happen here. We know American lawmakers, they were notified of these actions yesterday. It's pretty split on how this is being received in Washington because, remember, this could make things more expensive in the United States as they walk towards midterm elections in November.
All right, that is our Reggie Cecchini joining us from Washington. Reggie, thanks so much.